So my talk today is called To Tell the Truth. I realized, was that a game show? Okay, hilarious. Well, we're going to have a little fun, as we always do. To tell the truth. Now, there are very different kinds of truths. Alternative facts is not one of them. Ba-dum-bum. I could not resist. There is a small t truth. You know, my name is Shannon O'Hurley. I have blue eyes. I am the minister here at New Thought Center for Spiritual Living. You all have your small t truths. And then we have what we call around here capital T truths. These are the universal spiritual truths that we all share, such as our interconnectedness, our oneness, our inherent worthiness. The spiritual truth that we hold here in our progressive, liberal, spiritual community will be different from the spiritual truths that may be held in a conservative community. And that is okay. We are free to choose. Isn't that a beautiful thing about being here in America, in the United States of America? We are free to choose. There are many places on the planet where that is not the situation. And so that in itself is a blessing. I want to start with that. This word truth is a very interesting one. Because when you look at the original meaning, the etymology of the word truth is actually faith. Isn't that interesting? It's actually faith. So whatever truth you profess is what you have faith in. We teach here in New Thought that we have faith in the goodness and the love and the compassion that is at the center of every human being, whether they know it or not. That's one of the truths that we share here. And the thing is, in thinking about this, is that the delivery system, if you will, the delivery system that recognizes this inherent truth in all of us can be both spoken and unspoken, which I will get to in a moment. In this world of ours, we are called to be the truth so that we can be a beneficial, healing, and loving presence to ourselves and others, especially when it is difficult. This is the truth that I'm talking about today. This is how we live our vision and our mission that we shared earlier to help make the world a better place for all people and all of creation and ourselves. So I knew that this talk was coming up, when I was in France, and I was paying attention to how we communicate as humans, because really what I'm talking about today is communication. The spiritual principle is interconnection and interconnectedness, but it's really all about communication. And I don't know about you, but I can point to very specific times in my life where there has been a breakdown of communication and all HE double toothpick happened. Yes? All hell broke loose because of a breakdown of communication. So a lot of what I'm talking about today is how we can speak truth and prevent that from happening. And being in a country where English is not the first language, I was given multiple opportunities to, as Rev Sarah spoke so beautifully last week about, to peel back some layers of this onion, this idea of communication and truth, and where the twain shall meet. So today I want to give you two very specific ways that we can share and be the truth of love and kindness and compassion in a world, and the ways that we can communicate this both non-verbally and verbally, especially during times of conflict or difficulty. So have you ever been in, let's say, a post office? In line, a long line, maybe it's around the holidays, and there is, maybe the line's out the door, right? Everyone's tired and frustrated and fill in the blank, all the things, right? But then there's like one person in line, and they either crack a joke, or they start cooing at the baby in the stroller, or they just strike up a conversation with the stranger in front of them about, do you think it's going to rain? Have you ever noticed how that changes the entire line of people? Most people, maybe there's one or two that refuse. But the rest of us kind of like our shoulders soften a little bit and we kind of go, yeah, okay. And we engage. Even if we are talking or not, we're engaging in that moment. And you notice how it just sort of softens and relaxes. Let's say it's the person who's talking about the weather. Let's just say they're saying, do you think it's going to rain? Maybe it's going to rain. We talk about that a lot in Oregon, folks, online, just so you know. Yes, no, whatever it may be. The thing is, it's never about the weather. That moment has nothing to do with the weather or the funny joke or the darling baby in the stroller. It has nothing to do with that. It's about our innate need to care for each other, to connect, and to companion each other in this life. The truth that is being spoken in that moment is about love. It's about connection. It's about oneness. This is a very Buddhist idea. The beautiful Buddhist teacher, John Kabat-Zinn, wrote, "To drop into being means to recognize your interconnectedness with all of life and with being itself. Your very nature is being part of larger and larger spheres of wholeness." Isn't that beautiful? Your very nature is being part of larger and larger spheres of wholeness. So when I was in France, at one point, David and I took a couple days and we went down to the south of France. I'd actually never been to the south, the Côte d'Azur, Nice and Provence. We rented a car, we went through Provence. It was just all so wonderful. And if you have not yet been, one thing that I will share with you that just astounded me is there is this remarkable train system in the south of France. And you can hop on the train and a 10-minute train ride will take you to this lovely hilltop sea village. And then you go another 10 minutes and voila, you're in Monaco. And then if you go a little further, you're in Italy. It's amazing. So David and I had no sort of agenda. We just decided we were going to get on the train and, we had the whole day. And I looked at him and he looked at me and we said, "Monaco? It's a whole other country. It's the second smallest state, as they call it. And it's pretty darn interesting. Princess Grace Kelly and, all the things. And so we found ourselves in Monaco. We did the very touristy thing of, the on-off bus where you get on the top air. It is so touristy, and I love that when I go because I can be on top and see the lay of the land. It only took 40 minutes because Monaco's very small. But it was wonderful. You have these ancient buildings, and then behind them you have these super high rises that were built in the 60s and 70s. It's a fascinating mixture of cultures. It's this tiny little country between France and Italy. And even as we were going, I was Googling, what is the language in Monaco? Well, I don't know. I learned it's French. I didn't know this. But I was just very curious. And at one point, we got off the bus. And I went into a little snack shop, if you will. And there were two groups of people ahead of me. And the woman at the counter, she was 20-something, young, 20, 21 maybe, and she was conversing in fluent, flawless Italian. And I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they speak more Italian here. I don't have a lot of Italian. I'm not going. So I was trying to think how I would communicate to her, and she's just helping with hand gestures in the very Italian way, and it's so wonderful and warm and lovely and refreshing. And it's this mother and her daughter who is maybe 5, and she's helping them, and the little girl, she actually walked her out to the door. I mean, it's just, the culture is so beautiful. Walked her to the door, and we're all just waiting patiently for our time, and the little 5-year-old turns around with a hand gestures and went, "Arrivederci, everyone!" And I was like, oh, I just love everything about that kid. And we all laughed. We were having a wonderful time. And then the couple right in front of me was this elegant French couple. And this young woman moved seamlessly into French, you know? And she was like, bonjour. And it was so beautiful and so elegante and magnifique and lovely and très jolie and all these things. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, I can't wait I want to be fluent in French. That's my next thing. So, so they help them, and then off they go. Au revoir. Off they go, and then it's my turn. I get up there, and I say, bonjour, mademoiselle. And she says, hello, madame. I have a long way to go in my French, clearly. And she proceeds to speak in perfect, amazing English. And I'm just sharing with her, what I would like, and she's so kind and so present. And as this exchange was going on, knowing I was studying this idea of communication and truth and what to speak and share with you all, I could not miss that moment about how beautifully that young woman met me and everyone exactly where we were. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go learn Italian and French or some other language. That's not, but unless you want to do that, I think that's wonderful. But it reminded me of how important it is to meet another person where they are. And this speaks to so many different levels of kind of the opportunities that we have to love each other in that line at the post office, right? This young girl taught me that meeting someone where they are takes a commitment to speaking their language, even if you don't speak their language. Do you follow what I'm saying? Again, I'm not saying this is about speaking another language. I'm inviting all of us together to be creative and to find ways to communicate care and love that can feel felt and received by, say, that person in line. Or if you are an introvert and that's too big of an ask, maybe it's the person online. I felt so loved by this young gal in Monaco, so cared for. In the sweetest, smallest way, we all long for a sense of connection, belonging. Wherever we are in whatever community is such an intrinsic part of being human, isn't it? And when we extend ourselves to another person, wherever we may be, we are offering the belonging that all of us long for. So, and the thing is we can do this even when we're talking about the weather, In the Christian Bible, it says in Peter, above all, love each other deeply. Above all, love each other deeply. Easier said than done, I know. I really, really know. I want to share something with you that I learned recently, and I've been putting it into practice, and it's absolutely magical. It's actually a negotiating tool. Some of you know I have a background in social justice and peace building and conflict transformation. This is a tool that's used often at the negotiation table for a variety of reasons, a variety of things. And I was thinking about how effective it is, and then I decided I wanted to see what that might look like as a spiritual practice, as a spiritual tool. And so here is what I want to share about that. So in order to stay in a vibration of love, we have an opportunity ourselves personally to use all sorts of tools that we have here. And one of them is affirmations, yes? And I always, affirmations got such a bad rap from, was it Stuart Smiley? I am good, I am happy, my life, remember that? And I was like, oh man, you're ruining it. It was very funny, great skit, but The thing is though, is that the spiritual tool of affirmations is incredibly life-changing. Let me give you an example. If I am feeling, let's say, confusion, I'm just feeling confused. I have to make a big decision, and I'm feeling like I need clarity in my life, and I'm really confused. I have a choice. I can either go down the rabbit hole of confusion, and oftentimes we unconsciously do that and then stay there. And it can turn into inertia, I don't know, all the things, right? If you're not clear about a decision that has to be made. Or I can choose a spiritual path, and I can say the spiritual truth is that there is the most powerful clarity, called by so many names in so many different religions: spirit, source, quantum consciousness, universe, the indwelling spirit at the center of my being, that is always clear, that is always guiding me, that knows exactly what is best for my highest good and the good of all the people involved in this particular decision. And if I can just stop for a moment and remember that, I don't have to dig myself this hole of, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. No, God in me, spirit in me, love in me knows. So if I can just get quiet and affirm that, clarity within me knows exactly my next steps. And clarity is a capital C. It's like a God quality, a spiritual quality. Clarity in me knows exactly. I am clear in my decisions. And then what happens? The decision comes. The decision comes. Sometimes over time, but it comes, right? So those are our personal affirmations. How do we then turn this into a spiritual practice affirming others, especially in situations where there is conflict, like at a negotiating table, like at in a situation that might be heightened or difficult? So let me give you an example, another example. Let's say you are at work, and let's say that someone you work with was supposed to send a very important document, and they didn't get it done, and the deadline wasn't met, and it caused a whole domino effect, and all this drama happened. Let's just pretend, something like that, okay? You're at choice. You can go to this person and, like nobody here has ever done, say something along the lines of, you were supposed to do this. I thought you were going to do this. You told me you were going to do this. You didn't do this. Ah! Right? What does that make the other person do? Defensive, close off, fight back. There's another solution, and it's incredible. You can, in that moment, stop and take a breath. Let's all do that. The power of the breath, man, never underestimate that power of the breath. And instead, what if you decided to affirm a spiritual truth about them first? What if instead of berating them for not doing the thing, you said, Susie Q, I know you to be an incredibly responsible and a person of great integrity. So I'm curious if you could teach me why this happened. Game changer. You're speaking truth in that moment, and what happens is the other person is completely undefended. You can even say, my experience of you is that you get things done, girl. You're totally responsible. What happened? I mean, you know you're responsible, right? The person goes, yeah, I am. Here's the thing, Shannon. Here's what happened. Blah, 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 blah. Right? It's a completely different conversation. This works incredibly well with kids, especially teenagers. I had a situation the other day in the car with our youngest daughter, Liza Rose. She is a senior. She's applying for colleges. It's all very exciting. There is a piece in the college application that requires that the student have a meeting with their guidance counselor, because their guidance counselor has to send a letter of recommendation. Liza is very verbal about the fact that she is shy and does not like to do things like that. She also is not a big fan of this particular counselor. Let's be clear. So we're driving, and I'm driving, and I said, well, you know, honey, have you made that appointment yet? And she said, I'm not doing it, Mom. I forget it. This is a kid with a really high, she has worked really hard in school. And this is something that is I know something that she has talked to me about, these certain colleges that she's excited to apply for. This is a piece, that needs to be done. And she just did not want to do it. She was digging her heels in. She's like, Mom, I don't like her. It's not going to work. What would I say? All these things, giving me all the reasons why she's not going to do this piece, which is going to have a big impact on her life, right? So instead of saying what I may or may not have done in the past, I'm teasing. Instead of saying, but honey, you need to do this. In order to do this, you have to do this. I stopped, I took a breath, and I said, Liza Rose, I know you to be incredibly intelligent. And I also know you to be very courageous. Do you know that of yourself? And she kind of went, yes, I do. And I said, so what do you think? What do you think about this? And she goes, I need to go in there. I'm going to make a list of all the things. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm just going to go in there and deal with it. And I was like, do, 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 do. In your relationships, perhaps instead of saying, honey, you said you were going to fill in the blank. You said you were going to take out the garbage. You said you were going to load the dishwasher. You said you were going to whatever. Honey, I know you to be a deeply caring person. Is there a reason that the garbage is piled up like this? And we made that arrangement together? I just forgot. I'm being silly, but you understand my point. You understand my point, right? I swear to you, if you take this spiritual tool, if you do anything this week, I invite you to take this tool into your life. This is speaking the truth in a way that de-escalates conflict and creates more love on the planet. Are you with me? Because aren't we here to create more love on the planet and more justice? So what do we do in situations where something is unjust? I was scrolling recently, and someone that I follow, Brett Culp, I don't know if you know him. I love him. And he wrote this thing, and he said, Mr. Rogers was a disruptor. And I was like, oh, yes, he was. He just disrupted injustice with love, with enormous care and kindness and compassion. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? For those of you who have no idea what I'm singing, please Google Fred Rogers. Thank you, Susie, darling. He was extraordinary. But if you watch, in the 60s and in the early 70s, the work that he did on television for America, he was a disruptor. And it was incredibly effective. This doesn't mean that you cannot get angry. Righteous anger is a good thing. I want to be very clear about that. Righteous anger moves the dial, and in certain situations, in regards to social justice, it is required. However, no great social justice movement, no movement for lasting peace has ever occurred if the people involved in that movement just stayed angry. There is no negotiating at the table. It does not happen. Those are the movements that fail. The ones that succeed are the ones that are done with love. I know you as a group to be compassionate human beings. Or I know you to be a group of people who are dedicated to the love of fill in the blank. And there's ways to utilize this tool with both yourself, with your loved ones, and with groups of people, especially groups that you do not agree with. This is how we build peace. This is how we build peace movements. This is how we help make the world a better place. So this week, The next time you are in line or online, I invite you to see where you can meet another person where they are, especially if all you're talking about is the weather. Recognize that is a divine moment of connection. And if you can recognize it as you're talking about the weather, the other person will feel it. They won't know what it is exactly, but they will feel it. Watch what happens when those little exchanges in your mind, you decide those are divine God moments, if you will, spiritual moments, if you will. Watch how that impacts your week. Watch how that impacts your life. And then the other thing, again, is just try this week, before you express frustration or anger, especially if it's legitimate, take a breath, pause, and speak truth about that person, and then see what happens.